Okay, let's start. A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of our new season 2023 of Design Meetup, powered by IXTF Kerala and co sponsored by Experion Technologies. I'd like for everyone here to type in what role you work in. Also, if you're a student, aspiring designer, a developer, if you're a beginner, you can mention that as well in the chat window. So we just wanted to understand who's attending, what you do. Okay, we have a lead front-end developer, we have a UX designer, a front-end developer. Okay, I think something interesting about this topic is both developers and designers would be interested in it. You have a UI designer, product designer, interesting. Senior UX designer, another UI designer. Okay, so Figma design tokens streamline the design process by providing a way to manage and share consistent design styles across all platforms and products. It actually helps bridge the gap between design and development by providing a single source of truth for design styles that can be easily translated into code. To talk a little about our speakers today, Radha Krishna is a UX consultant. He's based in Bangalore and is originally from Theni. He has over 15 years of experience in design, and he always believes a better design can solve a lot of problems. Considers designs as thoughtful expressions rather than fancy looking interfaces that'll help solve real world problems. Our second speaker, Ajinesh, is a front end consultant. He's currently based in Trivandrum and is originally from Kozhikode. He has over 19 years of experience with a background in front-end design and development. Apart from UI development, he's also a musician and he's well versed in tabla as well as the flute. What I've noticed about Ajnesh is he's always very process oriented, how to streamline processes, bring in efficiency, and also what's common to the both our speakers are they're both very curious and continuous learners. For the ease of a better experience, we've muted the audience mic during the session, but please put in your questions in the chat window. Although we have an exclusive Q&A session in the after the webinar where the audience can interact and discuss. We will also be providing a recorded version of the webinar on our YouTube channel. And for those who are just joining us, welcome to Design Tokens by Chris and Ajnesh. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Vandana, for the brief introduction. There is nothing much left for me to say about myself. So I will start the session without any further delay. So thanks, first of all, for everyone to come and join us after quite a long break in this IXDF session. So let's start. What is design tokens? I'm sure many of you have heard about design tokens for many years already. Like at least I've been hearing design token for more than a year now, more than a year or two. So yes, of course, this is in the early stage, but this is definitely gonna go a long way right now. So what is design token is design token is just you're familiar with this atomic design principles. Many of you are also familiar with design systems, right? So now design token is actually going to contribute to your design system. To put it simply, design token is the individual values, like individual height, width, font size, font color, all those things. And you might wonder, oh, we already have all these things built in called styles, and we can put color swatches, right? So why do we need that? We manage all our components. We do it really efficiently with so many toggle switches. We can absolutely master these components. That is true, but the limitation is it can reach only within your document. So not beyond that. So the purpose of design token is it can go all the way to the production line to the developers, so where they can really use this token as variables, or you can consider that as a dynamic value. They can simply pass it on to their pipeline, and you have now direct access to the production line. So instead of you just getting stuck with your design document alone, now you can go all the way to the production line. So that's the power of design token. So yeah, and this is again elephant in the frame, which is consistency. So many of us, we struggle, right? This is exactly why we have design system in place. So the design system again helps the designers, but it doesn't help the developers. For developers, it's only like a reference document. They cannot fetch dynamically anything from the design document, right? This is the drawback. I'm happy that Figma is going to address this very soon. Right now, this is in only with a plugin we can use the design tokens, but maybe in few months, or hopefully by this year itself, Figma may release like a native token support. That way, it's gonna go a lot of mainstream, and it's though it sounds a little tricky for now, it's very important that everybody starts adapting this approach, because this is gonna be the way. This is gonna be the way for the future. So as you can see, this is a problem we consistently gets addressed. I mean, the clients tell us, like the clients have multiple suites of products, and usually each product looks different. First of all, multiple designers may work, which can be solved with our design system, fair and good. But the implementation, not there are multiple teams of developers who will work on the project, and multiple developers itself within the same team. So each they have different way of interpretation. So when they look at the design system document, and when we allow the developers to interpret on their own, this is where many things falls apart, right? Because the interpretation could be different, and they even a designer with 2-3 years of experience cannot really tell the difference between what is consistent and what's not. So for the developers, they are in a very tricky situation, and when things don't look consistent, the client is not happy. So as you can see in this example, so over here, this is the same box, same block I have used. So this is the gap, and you can see this is the same gap, almost close, but not exactly. But in the first one, there is quite a gap over there. And as you can also see, the gap here is inconsistent. The gap here is inconsistent. Here, there is no padding at all. And so here, the button here, this has more extra padding. Here, it's less. All these things attributes to inconsistent look. I mean, it could be colors, it could be typography, it could be spacing. There are so many attributes can be controlled through design tokens, which are very handy. And end of the day, the developers don't need to worry about it. They just pass on a value, and everything else, designers will do the heavy lifting of making the look and feel consistent. And they can just focus on implementation. And finally, we have an amazing, consistent product. So now we wanted to show you an example in a form of demo that our associate Ajinesh will show you a website which is in the current state, and which is already integrated with the design token already. And once he will show that, I will take back control and I will show you how I fire up Figma and the design token plugin and make certain changes and update. And those updates will reflect on the production line website. So let's go. Ajinesh, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, thanks all. Yeah, here is the RED website, the application login page that we have already integrated with the design tokens. So you can see a login, so many elements here. So buttons, text field, and background colors and all. So here actually, this I can show you all the HTML code for this and the CSS. So this is the code that we used for the login page. and it have, so if you are looking on that CSS code, you can see a lot of code is there. So here it actually for example, here the welcome section, if you see, there you can see a background color that is BG primer. This is a variable, and it is not a straightforward color code or nothing. So we are actually using CSS custom property and this variable, and we are actually used the variable to some other place also. So these all are synced to the design, and so all these variables are defined here in the variables.css. That you can see the variables with some values, and that is reflecting in the login page directly. So what are the change that we are making in this variable that will directly reflect in the appearance? Handing over to Chris back to make some changes on the application, and that we can show the reflecting same thing in the implementation. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. All right, so you guys can see this. So now this is the design, and this is the plugin we use. So right now, under plugins, there is tokens. Just like Token Studio is just one of the plugin to handle design token. There are plenty of other plugins as well, but we recommend Token Studio because this is a bit more stable and good. This got packs with a lot of features. So yeah, our goal is let's focus on how this works rather than what are the different plugins. So let's stick to that. So Token Studio, when you fire up, so this is the window you get. You get tokens, inspect, and settings. Settings is really important because whatever the token, these configurations you make, um, so you can see this in two views. One is in our familiar tree view, and the other one is the code view. This is the JSON file. This is the contents of the JSON file. This piece of information is what gets broadcasted to the developer. They will exactly use this JSON file and map it and take that variables and plug it into the CSS. So Token Studio, this is the plugin we use to perform our tokenization. There are many plugins. So for now, let's stick with Token Studio. So we have three important things, tokens, inspect, and then settings. So under settings, you need to decide. So when you say add new, you can say where exactly you're gonna keep this JSON file, because the developers for your handoff, it's not just like you pass the Zeppelin file back in the days or any asset folder. This is going to be a JSON file, is going to be a token. So now this token, the developer need access. So you can post that file through a JSON bin or GitHub, GitLab, or anything your respective company keeps it as a standard way of doing things. Now, for our demo, we have kept the GitHub. So when you say GitHub, it will ask you this following information: name, personal access token, repository. You have to reach out to your developers. They can give those informations to you. All you need to do is punch in those values and save credential. Then you have established the connection in GitHub. So that the tokens you create here, this will be published in that location. So I will get to that in a moment. But for now, let's focus on making these changes, because now we need to make certain changes to this page so that what Ajinesh showed a moments ago, that gets updated. Now let's go. All right, so I have already to be mindful of the time, I have already noted down some of the points. Let's change the background color. So this is the background primary. So you see, this is BG primary. I'm gonna say edit token. By the way, this is way more easier than editing your color styles inside Figma. So that way it's really good. So that's made white. And the other one, gonna make it to green. All right. So that's done. And then for this background color of this container, I'm going to change it to white. All right. So that's done. And then this text. So this one, so the moment I select it, it's gonna show me the highlights. Just like I select this component, it shows me which exactly the attributes which are affecting those things. So this one, I'm gonna change this color. So again, 4, 3, 8, 8. And this color again. So it shows this color, text color primary. I'm gonna again make this to white. And if I select this rectangle, so border. So there is primary red. I'm gonna apply this. So this is gonna be 20 pixel, all right. And then this height. So this is the sizing property I have applied, the large. So it's like 100 pixels. So I'm gonna say 170 pixel maybe. I'm gonna save it. It's done. And for this, I'm gonna update the content. So when Ajinesh showed, this was the content. It just had welcome and then I think heading 1 and subtext was that. So I'm gonna update this text. Now I can also use this as a form of a CMS, right? Like a mini CMS. So first thing is when I select it, hero text, yeah, this is the hero text. I can go to edit token. So here, I'm going to exactly paste that value and save it. And here, for this one, sub hero, I'm going to exactly paste that value and save it. Now, now these things are done. You can check this JSON file. All the input values are updated. Now, what I do is you can see a little highlight over here. It says, this is ready. It is detecting a change from the previous state. So I can click it. And all I can see is updated design. Yeah, that's it. And please be descriptive. And branch, this says tokens because I created a branch in the setting page. Nothing you need to worry. Whichever the developer gives credential, you please just punch in those things. You stick to the Figma configuration, that's enough. And when I say push, it gets updated. And then I can click on pull request. Just because this has got published into a different branch, I'm gonna send a reminder to the developer saying that, hey, I have made this update. You need to make it updated to the main code. So that's it. This is end of the line for me. Now I can just shoot out an email. Typically, I can say, hey, I have updated all this design. I have updated this thing. And when you push the code, you comment it, right? So all those things are like a stamp. And now when this is one more thing. I missed it, but that's okay. For the sake of this demo, we can get going. Now, Ajinesh, over to you. You can show them how you update the code and then how exactly this gets published.
Yeah,
Over to you,
sure.
Ajinesh.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to the GitHub. Well, Chris actually pushed the code changes, the token changes. So you can see one pull request is appeared here now. So if you go to that pull request tab in the GitHub, so you can see the title that has Chris given. So if I open that pull request, I can see the changes. So there are some changes. File changes one. So you can inspect that. So I can clearly say that the changes for the BG primary is from this code to white, and these are the changes. So these changes that can clearly verify from my end. So these all are acceptable, and there is no impact in the code environment and all. And this is currently, it is in the token branch, and it is not the main branch that we used for developer, but we are keeping all the development in a main branch here. So I want to merge the token changes that Chris has pushed into my main branch. There also have the same file is there. So I want to update the same code changes to my development branch, like this main branch. So I'm approving this with some comment. And this token has came to the main branch of the application now, and I can merge this. After that, it will come to the main branch. So this is a pull request. That pull request is just to creating a request to take a pull into the main branch of the application from token branch. That's it. So now the main branch is having all the code changes. So if I'm taking to the code, I'm taking a git pull. So I will be taking pull from the main branch. So now I'm in the main branch. So you can see the file change is coming. That is Figma token is got updated from the main branch to the local. All the changes that Chris made that you can see in the Figma token.json. So this is the JSON that keeping all the tokens that Chris has created from the design Figma environment. So you can see all the token name as the key in the XML. So this XML format actually keeping a structure of data in it that holding all the tokens with value that he has put. So I need to convert, the next task is actually I need to convert this XML into a variable. For example, here actually BG secondary is there. So I want to convert this BG secondary into a CSS variable with the value, this value. So I'm using a plugin in my local environment that is style dictionary. Style dictionary is is a thing. So it's a Node.js plugin. So if you are installing it in a Node.js environment, I can able to convert this XML format tokens into our own platform, like CSS or SCSS or JavaScript, JSON, anything. So there are a lot of plugins are available, similar plugins like CSS tokens and all. You can use your own plugins. That the style dictionary is one of the famous one that is offering many customization to the transformation and all. And we are grabbing the data from XML to our own platform. So here actually in the style dictionary, I have written a build.js where I'm using this particular code to get all the data into a transformed format. So I'm not going detail into this particular code, but I want to show you how actually to build this. So if I'm executing build.js from the node environment, it will create the variable CSS and variable CSS as per the configuration I have created for the. So I have two configuration created for the style dictionary. So these two configuration is one is CSS and CSS. So you can see that there's a build folder. I have two folders CSS and CSS, and both having a variable.css that is all got updated with the new values. You can see the green color is appeared here. And with this new updated variables, if I'm refreshing the page, you can see that changes is appearing straightforward. So we are not missing any update from the Figma. So that is how we are modifying without any code change. We are reflecting the changes that we modified in the Figma environment. So I want to talk something more about the plugins I used. So I have used Git environment to take the full what Chris has actually pushed the code into a separate branch in GitHub that actually reached in a separate branch called the tokens. And I just merged that token to main branch. And once it is merged into the main branch, I'm taking pull to the local branch, my local system environment. I'm taking the tokens, Figma token.json that is having these tokens. And once I got every token updated it in my local environment, I need to convert it into a variable. So I'm using style dictionary for that. So style dictionary is a Node.js environment utility that we can, if you're installing it not in a Node.js environment using npm install command. So normally we are using npm install command to install any Node.js utilities like. So similarly, I have used npm install style-dictionary as a global and just used -c. So I can start using it, the style dictionary in my local. So once we execute the style dictionary build command, or if you're creating a build.js, and you can execute it using Node environment. So I can create the CSS variable or SAS variable directly from the config from the token XML file. So that is happened now. So yeah, that's it regarding the demonstration. So I'm handovering to Chris to say something more about the design side of this particular demonstration. Yeah. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Ajinesh. Okay, it's gone. Anyway, so first thing I want to tell to everyone is don't panic. This may look intimidating, but it's not, because if you see, it's not just a role of designers alone. Like, we do half of the stuff and the rest are taken care by the developers. But when this integration is done, then in the future, the scalability, the maintenance, and everything is gonna be so much organized, and designers will have complete control over the UI and the look of the whole deployed production. So that's the beauty of it. So let me share my screen again. So just to recap, so we didn't only demonstrate just changing colors and font sizes. We also changed the dynamic value of this text. We also changed the size of this image, right? In fact, some of the advanced token can also allow you to update the assets like images and other components itself. So you could define the padding, you can define the layer structure. It's so much better. So we do this, we need design tokens for consistency, which will allow, by using the same attributes, the same values across multiple platforms, we can achieve consistency thanks to design tokens. And then even doing the handoff, I know developers typically they will look into the Figma file, they will use their eyedropper tool to select the colors, select all those things, and manually understand everything. All those handoffs can be made more simpler through this design tokens. And most importantly, the design updates. When there is a design update, instead of going through so many levels of approval, so many middle people, and then by the time you get a final say, it's like 2 weeks gone. So we can really avoid all those stuff. Now the designs are made simpler, and yet the accountability is still there. People will still know who made this change because we are commenting when we push the updates. So things are trackable, everybody is accountable, and at the same time, we are not wasting any time. So that's why it is so powerful. And then to break it down, I said there are two sides, one for the designers and one for the developers. Designers, we will use Figma. It's not just limited to Figma. People also use something called styles. So for styles, something in Sketch. XD also have something similar. So it's not just exclusive for Figma. This has been there for quite some time now, but now it's gaining momentum. And then Token Studio plugin is one among the many plugins you can experiment with any other plugin. Just type in, go to plugin and say design token, and you will get at least 10 plugins you can experiment with it. Most of it doesn't work. So that's why we recommend Token Studio is best. And then GitHub is again one of the many choices where you can host your JSON file. JSON file is the output of your tokens. So you can use JSON bin, GitLab, or even your company can have a dedicated URL where this JSON file is like hosted. So that's all up to them. And that's it for us. We walk away. For the developers, they will take the file from GitHub or any sources, and then they will map it to their CSS. So they can either use style dictionary or they can write their own custom JavaScript plugin, which is even an average developer can do that. So it's not very advanced or such. And then they just need to map those content of this JSON to a CSS variable or even to the HTML. So where it kind of acts like a CMS or your token. So yeah, who are other people using it? So IBM has a design token system called Carbon. Same thing for Shopify, they have something called Polaris. Adobe has Spectrum. So right now you can head out to these places and you can use, for example, if you use Polaris as a token system, let's assume all of your companies, you may have some time logging applications, right? So just imagine if your developers uses Polaris design token, then your platform will look like one of the Shopify line of products. So that's what it is. So Salesforce has lighting system. So I think Polaris is the best one, in my opinion, because they have this excellent documentation. Sorry for that. So they have classified this into colors, fonts, shapes. Only difference between all these different systems is their naming convention, like how they name it. So this is like depth or spacing. You see, they also give some visuals. I really like the way they have done their motion. You see, P linear, is in, is out. So all they need to do is pass this variable. And then the contents of this variable is in the hand of the designer. So they can tweak it depending on the approval they get from their line of chain of commands. But this is what it is. So it's just the naming convention and the way it's nicely documented, Z index. So you see, you will never see Z index 999, right? Maximum Z index 12. So these are all the best practices, and this is not the only way, because if you head out to the documentation from Carbon or Spectrum, for example, their naming convention is slightly different. So there is no one right way or wrong way. Just like start adapting design token, it's just gonna get better and better in the coming days when it becomes as a native support, and it just becomes a natural evolution for us. And this just demonstrating like our range of influence. Instead of our design system, our components only reaching out to the design document, now we have the privilege using design tokens. We can go all the way to the production of our mobile or web application. So that's the power. And to conclude it, this is it. Consistency is the key. We want to do it. We don't want to confuse the user. Thanks, everyone. And that's it, Vandana. You can take over.
Thank you so much, Chris and Ajinesh, for taking us through design tokens. And I think a lot of times we talk about what is the ideal way to do a handover of designs. And a lot of times, it may be two different organizations, the two different teams. A lot of things are lost in translation. Maybe communication, there may be gaps. So I think a lot of these things kind of help bridge all these issues to some extent. And we have a question. So I'd like to ask, we've enabled the unmute option. So please see if you can turn on your video and unmute yourself and ask questions. if you want, you can also type in the chat window. But we'll start with Nitin, who's raised his hand. Nitin?
Hello, Chris, Ajinesh. That was a wonderful session. And my question is actually, we have seen that in the variable file in the whatever Ajinesh has shown, we can see there are many number of variables. Maybe in a real life scenario, there might be more than 30 or 50 or 60, many variables out there. So from the Figma file, how will you find the exact variable from that design and put it there in the actual UI, like the UI development part? You need to define the variables, right? So from where you are going to get the variables? So can we get it from the Figma file itself directly? Or
actually,
so
the variable,
in the initial process, we need to define, right? So from where you are getting that variable. So there's a link. Actually, whatever defined here will be automatically updated in that file, right? Once you run the program. So how will you get that variable? That is my question.
The variable that we are getting into the CSS actually from the XML file, we will be having all the token in an XML, right? So we can able to understand which all of the tokens are used in the design from the XML itself. So first of all, we don't need to go into the Figma, but if you have Figma edit access in the project, you can directly see the tokens used in the Figma by inspecting on the element. But the another ways, as I told, we can able to get the details from the XML files. As I shown, I can share my screen and share. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, but initially, before getting into like from the scratch, we are defining the layout and CSS and all, right? So while defining the CSS, you need to define the variables first. So the name of the variable, from where we are getting the name of the variable initially.
Yeah, I got your point. So we need to get this XML initially itself. So once we completed the design with tokens created and all, the designers will be exporting the Excel. Then only we will start creating the our HTML from this token. So we'll be getting it initially itself.
Initial. So while looking into this, you need to define the variables there.
Yeah, you can create the variables by compiling this using style dictionary into CSS or CSS. You can convert this into CSS variable or a CSS variable. So this will be there in the initial itself. So we will be starting our development activities once the design is completed only, right? So at that time, they will be defining the token and all, and they will be exporting it to for the development implementation purpose. So we'll be getting all the tokens from this exported Figma. Then only we can able to start the code.
All right. So
Ajinesh,
can
Within I have one question, man. Something related to what Nitin has asked. Probably I'm seeing it in action for the very first time. So the designer created a JSON file, right? The Figma is exporting a JSON file, correct?
Yeah.
And that JSON file is uploaded to the GitHub, and the front-end developer is downloading that JSON file from the GitHub. And how you are translating that JSON file to the CSS, that is something missing.
That's I called. So where actually that style dictionary plugins came in. So this style dictionary is a node environment utility that I installed it globally. Style dictionary. So this is the So you can see the style dictionary. I have installed it in the Node environment. So in the development environment, there will be installed a style dictionary what plugin in the Node.js environment. So anyone can install it in using npm install command and -g that to use it for any folder in the computer. And style hyphen. So this is one of the plugins. There are many plugins available to convert this token into CSS.
What I understand is like the style dictionary will convert or translate the JSON file to CSS. Is that my understanding true?
Yeah, not only CSS, we can convert it to any platform like SCSS, JavaScript, JSON, or Android XML format. Any format we can convert into so whichever platform we wanted.
So basically you are saying style dictionary to convert the JSON file to CSS.
Yes. So normally we're using style dictionary phase build command to generate all the variables. So I have written a custom build script here. So to make all the nested typography and all to get into place. So I used Node.js for that Node, which we can able to create a custom build environment using this. So I have created a builder.js separately for building, and we can use custom script using the same plugin, style dictionary. There also I have used the style dictionary as an import. So you can see that style dictionary is used to require here, and I have used a register transform function that offered by the style dictionary add-on, and I'm converting every XML with some prefix and all, whatever we can do. There are so many possibilities.
Ajinesh, so when you say XML, so where does that XML come? Like how that XML is created? So what
XML,
so there is a JSON file. Up to that part, I completely understood. There is a JSON file created by the designer and uploaded to GitHub.
Sorry, I missed it. I mean the JSON is. I missed. Mistakenly.
JSON is a source file for the front.
Excel. XML. XML. We are not taking. So no XML here now. So XML is one thing that we can export to for Android environment and all, so that we can.
Okay. Cool. That makes sense. So for normal web development, so you can translate the JSON file to CSS using style dictionary. Right?
Yeah, JSON file and style.
If you are building an Android native app, probably instead of translating to CSS, you will be translating to XML.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
That you need to put it in the config. Yeah. Similar to this platform, CSS platform, we can also do XML.
Cool, man. Cool. Makes sense. And all this configuration is a one-time activity, right?
Yeah.
Once the configuration is ready, the designer can change anything in Figma and they can export to GitHub. And the development team can straight away merge that changes in GitHub. That's only thing you like.
Yeah, configuration we may need to modify it in some cases only. It's like if you wanted to transform some values like a pixel to REM or something like.
Or is there if there is any new component added to the JSON file, then you will have to do the configuration once again. Okay.
Yeah, not always, but if you added a new variable, that will come as a new variable. If you added a new token, that will come as a new variable here in the CSS that we may need to use directly. You don't need to modify anything in the configuration for that.
Okay. Cool, man. Now it makes sense to me, and it's got clarified. But so earlier, like I was a bit confused, like how this is happening. So
yeah, you can see a lot of CSS variables.
Very interesting, man. So really great, and thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jinson. Before I come to you, Nitin, I have a question from Sajid. Also, the same question that Jinson asked, Joel asked. So I think it was something that was on everyone's mind. So thank you for that very useful question, both Jinson and Joel. So Sajid Surendranath is asking, can I turn my Figma website design into code and use my own domain?
This is out of context. And nothing to do with Figma tokens. Yeah, not related to current topic, but to answer it, there are plugins, Figma plugins, which will transform your frame into a web component. And what they will do is they will typically give you the compiled HTML and CSS folder, like the whole structure. You can host it in any domain you want. I mean, if you think that is too much, then what you can do is create a Webflow plugin, a Webflow account, and from Webflow you can import the Figma file. There it will do everything, and you press a button, you can host it in Webflow domain itself. That's the easiest way you can do. But I encourage you to get your hands dirty. You learn some HTML, CSS, so that you are more mindful about when you're designing it. So yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Actually, the question is about translating design into HTML. So shall we call in Nitin has a question? Nitin, do you want to unmute yourself? And
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, my question was when some designer create this a web page design, and he has created this token, and before implementing the first web page, like as a UI developer's perspective, we need to create the layout first. Then we need to define the CSS, the styling, etc. So during the styling phase, we used to provide the variables. So initially, on which basis we are going to, as a UI developer, we are going to choose the appropriate variable names. So variable names come from either the token. So you need to go through the tokens and check for the variables. Suppose it is a complex screen that there might be maybe 50 or 60 variables inside the token. So it is hard for us to go through each and every line and find the appropriate names, and we need to connect with that, and we need to put the appropriate variables inside the our variable file. So do we have any anything there? Suppose we can check the Figma file and find respective variable name while inspecting. There is an inspector window right on the right side of the Figma file. So can we get that information from the Figma file itself, or we need to just go through the JSON and find the appropriate names? So that is my question. That was my question. Yes.
Right. The short answer is, if you get Figma edit access, you can simply click on the objects, and then the plugin will highlight the applied properties, right? So then you easily know, or you select an object, you highlight, most of the time it could be one or multiple. So you can easily spot that and see what is the token name, what are the values inside those tokens. You can understand each and everything easily. The worst case is if you don't have access, then you have to rely on your naming convention, maybe proper documentation, or just reading through that JSON file names. I mean, this is in a early stage. This is not fully evolved, but it's gonna get better and better in the coming days.
Oh, got it. So if there is access to that particular plugin, then I think it's like easy.
Absolutely easy.
Yeah,
and one thing we forgot to mention is, when you implement the code, you implement the JSON file, you do style dictionary, and you map it out, right? Now, for some reason, the developer thought they can override something. They have tampered the JSON file. They have modified the JSON file, and they saved it, they committed. Okay. If they do that, when designers we open the file, we get a pull request. Okay, it will also say, hey, content has been modified, take an update. When we say, okay, pull, we get all the changes which the developers did. Understand? It's like a two-way street. It's not just we only send out. We can also get the update from the developer if they tamper the JSON file. That's also something.
Anyway, thank you again for choosing this particular topic. Anyway, this is going to be beneficial for all the
Yeah.
UI developers for sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. One more thing, Nitin, I want to mention here. Actually, we need to choose a suitable variable name that easily can understand. Like if you see the variable name that you need to understand. Yeah. For example, primary VG, something like that.
On the other side, the designers also need to put the appropriate variable name. That's what
Yes.
Correct.
Then only the developer can easily choose it.
So we need to select got it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Nitin. I think Prinju also had the same question now. How can we understand what variable is being used for a particular section? You even put in a screenshot. So I think there is some discipline or maybe some conversations that need to happen between a designer and developer to actually have common naming conventions to be able to streamline the process and ensure that it is being utilized in the best way and to avoid confusion, especially when there's a lot of things to go through and unable to recognize it. Any other questions? We are past 4, but I can see a lot of interest. And Chris, you're on mute. Both of you are on mute. Any other questions from anyone? If not, we would be winding up. Okay, I have a question, Chris. So you mentioned that things are just starting off. So is it is this being done actively in mainstream? Like you mentioned IBM, but otherwise, how commonly is it being used currently?
Yeah, this is gaining momentum. I mean, it's been there for quite a long years, but it's gaining momentum now because everybody takes this consistency very seriously. And so Figma also sees this as an area to improvise. So I think latest speech from the Figma founder touches upon this design token. I think they're actively working on it and support it, and then that's gonna unfold so many possibilities. Yeah,
I think
it's gonna happen sooner or later. Yeah, it's gonna happen. We like it or not, it's better we learn it.
Okay, I have a question for you, Ajinesh. What happens when there's a change in the Figma environment? Will it change the implementation of the application? Like if you remove if a token is removed, will the application fail to load?
No, actually, we have a step-by-step process for accepting the token changes. So all the developer will be noticed and that all the token changes. So designers actually creating a pull request, right? So they're actually showing the changes on the token. So if any token is got removed, and that will be coming to notice of the developer. That is why we are creating pull request to merge into the main branch. So whenever we are merging into the main development branch, we can able to see these are the code changes. And once the developer is accepted, it is getting merged. So if there is any unwanted changes, he can reject the pull request and he can notice the change into the designer that this token is missing from your end. And that will make some trouble in the application that the particular variable is already used in somewhere. And so that the designer can correct it and create another pull request. Yeah, it won't break anyway with the process and all.
Thank you. We have one question. Vaishnu, do you want to unmute and ask a question or no? Okay.
Hello.
Okay, Vaishnu.
Yeah, a great session, guys. I mean, this is definitely new for us, and I'm really excited to learn personally about this. But then again, it do comes with pros and cons. So I would like to know what not to do with this. Like, say, Figma plugins, they are definitely third party, right? So any security issues that you would like to highlight so that we avoid it when we are working on, say, applications and working on clients. Just to make sure that things are secure. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Vaishnav. Just to add to that, in terms of compliance, privacy, non-disclosure, and in terms of using certain third-party plugins or design tokens, where the billable amount is above a certain amount, would it affect? Is there a limited, usage that is mentioned in most of these that limits our use for big projects?
So certainly these plugin makers, they're not doing charity, right? So they definitely, I don't think there will be privacy concern, because if that is the case, it's a matter of every single plugin, right? So I think it's just a matter of they will have some pro features, and that's how they make money and they make a living. But it's not that without the pro feature, you cannot use the plugin at all. We can start building this habit. We can get into this discipline. We can get into this method of doing things together. And by the time we master this technology will also evolve to a point that this becomes natively supported. And so this overlap will happen at some point. But for that, we need to start now. We cannot say, oh, I will just sit for another 2 years. When this evolves, then I will do it. I mean, that's the time we lose. So we should keep up with the trend, and the convergence of that optimal efficiency will happen over time.
I hope that answers your question. I think there are a lot of gray areas. I think especially when we are working on a commercial project, there are certain limitations and things that we have to adhere to, because most of these plugins or free resources come with very tiny, content that tells us that it is limited to a certain billable amount, and above that it's not supposed to be used for commercial purpose, because this is mostly to promote design and collaboration. But yeah, I think trying it out for your own projects and trial and error and experimenting, that's what Figma is all about, collaborating with other designers and playing around with all of that. Yeah, so with this, I think we should wind up, because we are overboard on time. But I think only because this topic was definitely very new and very interesting to a lot of us. But before that, any closing comments, Chris, and then Ajinesh. Chris?
No. I'm happy that the session went smoothly. We were expecting some things may not work as expected. Probably things were smooth. Thank you for being a great audience, and yeah, see you next time.
Thank you so much, Chris. Ajinesh?
Yeah, thanks everyone. So this particular session is really interesting for me, so that is why I just prepared for this. So we all are faced so many rework consistency issues after the rework that we done in the designs, and we continuously missing some small updates like 1 pixel font size for the font size, and line thickness is bit smaller than what we expected is in the design. So those all issues will be sorting out with this, as this is directly connected to the design, and we are not doing anything on the values specifically from the design side, from the implementer side. And those are issues that we can completely avoid with implementing the tokens everywhere. Yeah, that's it. Thanks once again for attending this session.
Thank you so much, Ajinesh. Thank you, Chris and Ajinesh, for taking the time for us and bringing to us such an interesting session. I'd like to thank each and everyone who took their valuable time from a busy day to attend this webinar. We are at 4:11, but we have more than 30 participants still on the call. A special thanks to all the participants who actively participated in the Q&A that made it even more interactive and interesting. A special thanks to Nitin, Jinsen, Joel, Sajit, Vaishno, Prinju, and thank you to all the volunteers of the IXTF team that work behind the scenes to make this event happen. And this is a topic, I think there's so much more to discuss as we progress with a lot of trial and error and experimenting with design tokens. Please let us know how you found our session. We are available on social media like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Clubhouse, on @IXTF Kerala. You can also write to us at idfkerala@hotmail.com. We have an exclusive IXTF Kerala community on Interaction Design Foundation on their website. And we're looking forward to seeing you more. And it was a great session to start with for 2023. We hope to see you in April as we come to you with another webinar. Stay safe and stay connected. Thank you so much.